You know, I still remember the first time someone asked me how old I was, right after I finished a long drive across town. When I told them I was 94, their eyes practically popped out of their head. "You're still driving?" they asked, like it was some kind of miracle. But here's the thing, I don't think it's magic at all. It's just the way I've chosen to live my life. And you know what? I rarely get sick either. Not the flu, not a cold, not even a sniffle. People always want to know my secret, and honestly, it's not some complicated formula or expensive supplement. It's simple habits, done every single day, that keep me feeling strong and energized. Now, I'm not saying this to brag, far from it. I bring it up because I know so many people in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, who feel like they're slowing down. Like they're just going through the motions instead of truly living. And I get it. Life gets harder as we age. Things ache a little more, energy dips, and sometimes it feels like your body isn't on your side anymore. But what if I told you that doesn't have to be your reality? What if I told you that staying sharp, active, and healthy well into your later years is absolutely possible, and maybe easier than you think? That's exactly why I wanted to sit down and talk with you today. Because I've been where you are. I've had days where getting out of bed felt like a chore, where my joints were stiff, and my mind wasn't as clear as I'd like. But over the years, I figured out what works. These aren't just random tips I read online or heard from someone else. They're things I do every single day, without fail. And they've made all the difference. So whether you're looking to feel more energetic, stay independent longer, or simply enjoy life to the fullest, these habits might just change the game for you. Let's dive in. The power of morning movement. Let me tell you about one of the very first things I do every day. It's something so simple, but it makes a world of difference. As soon as I open my eyes, I start moving. Now, before you roll your eyes and say, "Oh great, another person telling me I need to wake up at dawn and run 5 miles. Let me stop you right there. That's not what I'm talking about. This isn't about intense workouts or pushing yourself past your limits. No, this is about gentle movement, something anyone can do, no matter your age or fitness level. I start by stretching in bed. Just a few slow, easy movements, raising my arms overhead, rolling my ankles, bending my knees, and giving my shoulders a good shake. It only takes a couple of minutes, but it wakes up my muscles and gets the blood flowing. Then, before I even get out of bed, I take a deep breath in through my nose and exhale slowly through my mouth. Doing that 3 or 4 times helps me feel centered and ready for the day. Once I'm up, I walk around the house for a bit. Nothing fancy, just making sure I move my legs and get circulation going. If the weather's nice, I step outside and soak in a few minutes of fresh air. You wouldn't believe how much of a boost that gives me. Even if you live in an apartment, or don't have a yard, just opening a window and taking a few deep breaths can make a real difference. The key here is consistency. I didn't start doing this because I suddenly decided to become some sort of health guru in my 90s. No, I started doing this decades ago, back when I noticed my body starting to stiffen up. I realized that if I stayed still too long, I'd pay for it later. So I made a habit of moving early, and it stuck with me. And let me tell you, those few minutes in the morning set the tone for the entire day. I've seen so many people fall into the trap of waking up and immediately sitting down, whether it's at the breakfast table, on the couch watching the news, or scrolling through their phone. But trust me, the moment you start moving, even just a little, you'll notice how much better you feel. Your joints won't be as stiff, your mind will feel clearer, and you'll have more energy throughout the day. So if you're thinking, well, I guess I should try that, then I say go for it. Start small. Don't worry about being perfect, just commit to doing something each morning. Whether it's stretching in bed, walking around your home, or stepping outside for a breath of fresh air, it all counts. And once you make it a habit, you'll wonder how you ever lived without it. Fueling the body with purpose. Alright, so we've talked about movement, starting the day with a little bit of motion to wake up the body. Now, let's shift gears and talk about something that fuels everything we do, food. I know, everyone and their cousin has an opinion on what we should or shouldn't eat, especially as we get older. Some say cut out carbs, others say load up on protein, and half the time it feels like the rules change every week. But here's the truth, eating well doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, some of the best choices are the simplest ones. Now, I'm not saying I follow some strict diet plan or count every calorie. That would drive me crazy. Instead, I focus on eating real, whole foods, things that come from nature, not a box or a package. For breakfast, I usually stick to something light but nourishing. Maybe a bowl of oatmeal with a sprinkle of cinnamon and a handful of nuts, or scrambled eggs with a slice of whole grain toast. The key is to give my body fuel without weighing it down. And let me tell you, starting the day with something wholesome sets the tone for how I feel the rest of the day. Lunch is usually a big salad with plenty of colorful vegetables, spinach, tomatoes, cucumbers, bell peppers, whatever looks fresh at the market. I like adding a source of protein, like grilled chicken or chickpeas, and a drizzle of olive oil for healthy fats. And dinner? Well, I've found that lighter meals in the evening work best for me. Maybe some baked fish, steamed vegetables, and a small portion of brown rice or quinoa. The trick is not overloading the plate and listening to what my body actually needs. One thing I've learned over the years is that hydration is just as important as what we eat. I used to forget to drink enough water, especially in the mornings, and I'd end up feeling sluggish by midday. Now, I make it a point to sip on water throughout the day. Sometimes I add a squeeze of lemon, or a few slices of cucumber to give it a little flavor, but plain water works just fine too. Staying hydrated keeps my energy steady and helps with digestion, which is no small thing as we age. And here's another tip, don't skip meals, even if you don't feel super hungry. I know sometimes appetite changes as we get older, but going too long without eating can leave you feeling weak and tired. Instead, opt for smaller, more frequent meals if needed. Even a handful of almonds or a piece of fruit can make a big difference when you're between meals. The bottom line is this, food isn't just about keeping hunger at bay. It's about giving your body the nutrients it needs to function at its best. And when you choose foods that nourish rather than drain you, you'll notice how much better you feel, not just physically, but mentally too. So next time you're reaching for that bag of chips or grabbing something quick and processed, pause for a second and ask yourself, is this really the best fuel for my body? More often than not, choosing something fresh and natural will serve you far better in the long run. Finding balance through mindfulness. Now, I know we've already covered movement and nutrition, but there's another piece of the puzzle that's just as important, your mental well-being. I'm not just talking about avoiding stress or staying positive, although those things certainly help. I'm talking about actively taking time for yourself, slowing down, and reconnecting with your thoughts in a meaningful way. You see, as we get older, life doesn't necessarily slow down around us, but our bodies and minds start to feel the weight of everything a little more. That's why finding moments of peace and clarity becomes so essential. For me, mindfulness isn't about sitting cross-legged in complete silence for hours on end. That would probably put me to sleep anyway. No, it's about carving out little pockets of time each day to simply be. Sometimes that means sitting outside with a cup of tea and just watching the birds flit around the trees. Other times, it's flipping through an old photo album and letting memories wash over me. And yes, sometimes it's just sitting quietly with my eyes closed, breathing deeply and letting go of any tension I've been holding onto. I've found that taking even 10 minutes a day to do something calming can make a huge difference in how I handle the rest of my day. Think about it. If you're constantly rushing from one task to the next, never really pausing to take a breath, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, frustrated, or just plain exhausted. But when you give yourself permission to slow down, even briefly, you reset your mind and give your body a chance to catch up. One practice I particularly enjoy is journaling. I keep a small notebook by my bedside, and every now and then, I jot down a few thoughts or things I'm grateful for. It doesn't have to be anything grand. Sometimes it's just noting how much I enjoyed my morning coffee or how the sun looked that day. But writing it down somehow makes it feel more real, more tangible. It reminds me that there's always something to appreciate, even on days when things don't go perfectly. Another thing I do is listen to music. Not just background noise, but really listening, letting a favorite song play while I close my eyes and let the melody carry me somewhere peaceful. Music has a funny way of lifting your spirits, doesn't it? Whether it's an old jazz tune from my youth or a soft classical piece, taking a few minutes to lose myself in a song always leaves me feeling refreshed. Now, I know not everyone is into journaling or quiet reflection, and that's okay. The point isn't to force yourself into something rigid or uncomfortable. The idea is to find what works for you. Maybe it's gardening, painting, knitting, or even just sipping a warm beverage while watching the rain. Whatever brings you a sense of calm and joy, do that. Make space for it in your daily routine, just like you would exercise or eating well. Because here's the thing, taking care of your mind isn't a luxury. It's a necessity. And when you prioritize your emotional well-being, you're not just improving your mood, you're strengthening your overall health. Stress affects everything from your immune system to your heart, so learning how to manage it effectively is one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself. And the beautiful part? It doesn't require any special equipment, training, or expense. It just requires a little intention and self-compassion. So, as we continue exploring the habits that keep me feeling vibrant and full of life, remember this: movement and nutrition are crucial, but so is tending to your inner world. Take a deep breath, slow down, and give yourself the gift of presence. You deserve it. The secret in your daily rhythm. Now that we've covered movement, nutrition, and mindfulness, let's talk about something that often gets overlooked but plays a huge role in how we feel: our daily rhythm. I'm not just talking about sticking to a schedule, although that helps. No, I mean paying attention to the natural ebb and flow of your energy throughout the day and working with it instead of against it. You see, as we get older, our bodies tend to become more sensitive to disruptions in routine. Maybe you've noticed this yourself, how a late night or skipping a meal can throw off your entire day. Well, I used to be like that too. There was a time when I'd stay up too late reading or chatting with friends, only to wake up groggy and sluggish the next morning. It took me a while to realize that my body wasn't asking for complicated solutions, it was simply begging for consistency. So, I made a change. I started going to bed at roughly the same time each night, and waking up around the same hour in the morning. At first, it felt strange. I had to remind myself to start winding down earlier, maybe put away the book or turn off the TV a little sooner than I wanted to. But after just a few weeks, I noticed how much easier it became to fall asleep and how refreshed I felt when I woke up. And that clarity carried over into everything else. My mood improved, my energy stayed steadier, and I just felt more like myself. Another thing I pay close attention to is how I space out my activities throughout the day. I used to try to cram too much into one go, cleaning the house in the morning, running errands in the afternoon, and then trying to socialize later in the evening. By the end of the day, I'd be completely wiped out. Then I realized something. Pacing myself didn't mean doing less, it meant doing things smarter. Now, I break up my tasks into smaller chunks and make sure I take breaks in between. If I clean in the morning, I'll sit down with a cup of tea afterward before heading out. If I have an appointment in the afternoon, I'll rest for a bit beforehand so I don't show up feeling rushed or drained. And speaking of rest, don't underestimate the power of a short nap or even just lying down with your eyes closed for 10 minutes. I know some people swear by a full afternoon snooze, and if that works for you, great. For me though, I find that just giving myself a moment to recharge, no phone, no distractions, just quiet, is enough to reset my energy. Sometimes I'll even prop up a pillow and listen to soft music or nature sounds while I relax. It doesn't need to be long, just enough to give your mind and body a breather. I've also found that staying socially engaged plays a big part in maintaining a healthy rhythm. Don't get me wrong, this isn't about being constantly surrounded by people. In fact, I value my alone time just as much as my time with others. But having meaningful connections, whether it's with family, friends, or even neighbors, keeps life interesting and gives you something to look forward to. Whether it's a weekly coffee date with a friend, a call with my grandchildren, or even just exchanging a few words with the mail carrier, these small interactions add up. They keep me feeling connected, supported, and mentally stimulated. Of course, life doesn't always go according to plan. Some days are busier than others, and sometimes unexpected things come up that throw off your routine. That's okay. What matters most is that you return to your rhythm as soon as possible. Because once you establish a pattern that works for you, one that supports your physical, mental, and emotional well-being, you'll notice how much smoother everything else becomes. You won't feel as tired, you'll handle stress better, and you'll have more energy to enjoy the things you love. So, as we move forward, think about your own daily habits. Are there moments where you could slow down? Times when you could build in a little more structure? Small adjustments can make a world of difference. After all, aging gracefully isn't about fighting time, it's about working with it. And when you align your lifestyle with what your body truly needs, you set yourself up for years of vitality and joy. Staying connected to purpose. You know, one thing I've learned over the years is that having a sense of purpose isn't just something nice to have, it's essential. It's what gets you out of bed in the morning, keeps your mind sharp, and gives life meaning beyond just going through the motions. And let me tell you, it doesn't have to be anything grand or dramatic. Sometimes, it's the small things that matter most. For me, staying connected to a sense of purpose means doing things that make me feel useful, engaged, and part of something bigger than myself. When I was younger, that used to mean raising my family, working hard at my job, and contributing however I could. But as we age, those roles change. Kids grow up, careers wind down, and sometimes it feels like the world moves on without us. That can leave a bit of an emptiness if you're not careful. That's why finding new ways to stay involved, no matter how small, is so important. One of the simplest yet most fulfilling things I do every day is helping others. Now, I'm not talking about anything big like volunteering full-time or running a charity. I mean the little acts of kindness that cost nothing but mean everything. Whether it's checking in on a neighbor who lives alone, sharing extra produce from my garden, or simply offering a listening ear when someone needs to talk, these moments keep me feeling connected. They remind me that I still have something valuable to offer, even at 94. And here's the funny thing, helping others ends up helping me just as much. There's something about knowing you've made someone else's day a little brighter that lifts your own spirits. It gives you energy, keeps your mind engaged, and makes you feel needed. I've seen too many people fall into the trap of thinking they don't matter anymore once they retire or their kids move out. But that couldn't be further from the truth. You do matter. Your presence, your wisdom, your kindness, they all count for something. Another way I keep my sense of purpose strong is by continuing to learn and explore. Just because we get older doesn't mean we stop being curious. In fact, I find that the older I get, the more I want to learn. Whether it's picking up a new hobby, reading books on topics I never got around to before, or even learning how to use my phone better, believe me, that took some effort. Keeping my brain active has been one of the best decisions I ever made. I remember when I first started using the internet. Oh, what a struggle that was. I had to ask my grandson for help with the simplest things, like sending an email or looking up a recipe online. But instead of giving up, I kept at it. And now, I can video call my family, look up the weather, and even watch old movies whenever I feel like it. It might sound silly, but mastering something new, even something small, gives you such a boost of confidence. It reminds you that you're still capable, still growing, still evolving. So, whether it's learning a new skill, trying out a different kind of exercise, or even just taking a walk in a place you haven't explored before, keep feeding that curiosity. Don't let age define what you can or cannot do. Because trust me, there's always something new to discover, and every time you try something unfamiliar, you're giving your brain a workout that keeps it young and sharp. Now, I also believe that staying connected to your past is just as important as embracing the future. One of the things I do daily, sometimes without even realizing it, is reflecting on my life. Not in a melancholy way, but in a way that helps me appreciate where I've been and what I've learned. I'll flip through old photo albums, write in my journal, or just sit quietly and think about the experiences that shaped me. Doing this regularly reminds me of my resilience, my strength, and the lessons I've picked up along the way. It helps me put current challenges into perspective and gives me a sense of gratitude for all that I've been through. And honestly, that gratitude is one of the biggest keys to staying positive and fulfilled as we age. So, if you're feeling like something's missing in your life, I encourage you to take a moment and ask yourself, what brings you joy? What makes you feel useful? What are you curious about? The answers to those questions might lead you to something that reignites your sense of purpose. And once you find it, hold on to it. Nurture it. Let it become part of your daily routine, just like movement, nutrition, and mindfulness. Because when you live with intention, when you wake up each day knowing you have something meaningful to contribute, you'll find that age becomes less about slowing down and more about living fully. And that, my friend, is the real secret to staying vibrant, healthy, and happy well into your later years. Small steps, big rewards. You know, as I look back on all the habits I've shared with you, the gentle movement in the morning, eating nourishing foods, taking time to slow down, sticking to a rhythm that supports your body, and staying connected to purpose, one thing becomes really clear: none of these things are complicated. None of them require drastic changes or expensive tools. They're all simple, everyday choices that, when done consistently, add up to something truly powerful. And here's the good news: you don't have to tackle all of them at once. I didn't start doing everything perfectly overnight either. Life doesn't work that way, especially as we get older. Some days, you might only manage one or two of these habits. Other days, maybe you skip a few altogether. That's okay. What matters most is that you keep showing up for yourself, making choices that support your health and happiness, and recognizing that even small efforts make a difference. Think of it like tending to a garden. You don't expect flowers to bloom overnight just because you planted seeds yesterday. You water them regularly, pull the weeds when needed, give them sunlight, and eventually, bit by bit, you see growth. The same goes for your health. Every time you choose to stretch your legs in the morning, drink a glass of water instead of skipping it, take a deep breath before rushing into your day, or connect with someone who matters to you, you're planting seeds for a stronger, healthier, more joyful life. I know it can be easy to feel discouraged, especially if you've tried different routines before and felt like they didn't stick. Maybe you started exercising but lost motivation after a week. Or you tried eating healthier but found yourself slipping back into old habits. That happens to everyone. The key isn't perfection, it's persistence. It's about reminding yourself that progress doesn't have to be fast to be meaningful. Even tiny improvements, done consistently, create lasting results. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, pick just one thing to focus on right now. Maybe it's starting your morning with a few minutes of stretching. Or maybe it's committing to drinking a bit more water throughout the day. Whatever it is, make it manageable. Make it yours. And don't worry about getting everything right all at once, just take that first step and let it build momentum. I truly believe that no matter your age, you have the power to shape the way you feel. You can choose to embrace each day with energy, clarity, and purpose. You can decide that aging isn't about slowing down or giving in, it's about thriving, growing, and enjoying life to the fullest. And when you make that shift in mindset, when you start viewing your health as something you actively cultivate rather than something that just happens to you, everything changes. So, I hope you'll take what resonates with you from this conversation and make it part of your life. Try one habit, then another, and see how they fit into your daily rhythm. Pay attention to how your body responds, how your mood shifts, and how your energy levels improve. And most importantly, celebrate every small victory along the way. Because each choice you make, whether it's moving a little more, eating a little better, resting a little longer, or simply smiling a little wider, is a step toward living your best life. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. If any of these ideas spoke to you, I'd love to hear about your experience. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. Maybe something I mentioned reminded you of a habit that works for you, or perhaps you have a tip that's helped you stay strong and healthy. Either way, I'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss out on more tips, stories, and insights that can help you feel your very best at any age. Here's to living vibrantly, joyfully, and with purpose, no matter how many birthdays you've celebrated. Because as far as I'm concerned, the best days are still ahead of us.